In this video, we're going to talk about 10 functions that are mostly used in Excel and you should know about them. So the first one that we're going to go over is average function. So let's say we have a group of numbers here. Let's say here we're going to have this 30, for example, something like this. For us to be able to find the average for these numbers here, we type in an equal sign here. Then we type average here, this second formula here, this is what we want. So we double click on that to insert this. Here we need to give this formula a range of data that we want to find the average for. Then we press enter. Then it's going to find the average number for these cells. And so the average for these numbers is 873.545. But also it gives you the ability to find the average for two numbers. So let's say here you had the average formula, average. Here let's just insert this one. Then let's say maybe we had 200 here, comma, maybe 500. What's the average here? Then we press enter. The average for these two numbers in the formula bar, the 200 and the 500, is 350. That's how you can find the average for two numbers, and this is how you can find the average for the range of cells in your spreadsheet. This is one of the simple ways to use the average function in Excel. The next function I'm going to talk about is the sum function. So this one is used for adding numbers to find the sum of, for example, of the range. Here, let's just copy these numbers here. Just copy these and paste these here so that we can use these numbers to find the sum. Let's just make these bold so that we can know that these are there for functions that we are learning today. So the way you use the sum function is very simple. So here we want to find the sum of all these numbers in this column D. So what we're going to do here in this cell, we're going to start with an equal sign. Then we type sum, just like that. Then it comes here. All these are the functions that you should be familiar with. We want sum here. Then just like any other function, it gets the range. So we have to give it a range of cells that has the data that we want to find the sum of. Then we just press enter. Here, this is the sum for all these cells. Now, sum is the total for all these numbers here. So when you add all these cells together, you're going to get 9,609. So just like before, if we want to find the sum of two numbers, we can also do that. So we can just type sum there, open parentheses, and say maybe this, comma, this, for example. Then we press enter. Now we're going to get the sum for just those two cells. You can also say sum. Then here we can say maybe 20, comma, 60. Remember to put the comma between these two numbers. Don't put a plus sign. Then we just press enter, and we're able to get the sum of these two numbers, 20 and 60. When you add these two numbers together, we're going to get 80. But also you can just type in equal sign and say 20 plus 60 and press enter. It's also going to find the sum for you. And what if you want to find the sum of three numbers? You can just say this cell is equal to 20 plus 60 plus maybe 20 again. Then you're going to get the sum of the three numbers, 20, 60 and equals. Now here we want to use the formula, so what we can do is equal sign sum, then we say 20, comma, 60, comma, 20, just like that. Then we press enter. This is also going to do the maths for you, just like here. So this is how you can use the sum to calculate numbers in Excel. So there are many ways to use the sum function to add up numbers in Excel. These here are the best examples you should familiarize yourself with. The third function is going to be the SUMIF function. So this is going to be the third function we'll discuss in this video. Here's the data we're going to use for this SUMIF function. But now let's compare this function with this previous function, the sum and the SUMIF. What's the difference between the two? The sum function allows us to add these numbers. For example, just give it the range like that, and it's going to give us the total for these numbers here. So basically here, if you want to calculate the sum for all these vehicles, we just use the sum formula and it's going to do the job for us. Let's say we want to use the SUMIF formula. SUMIF, how is this going to help us? So what we can do with the SUMIF function is, let's just put SUMIF here, SUMIF, and just like that. Then here we're going to put maybe Toyota, something like this. So here we're going to have this colored. Let's just color this a little bit so that we can see the difference. Let's put brown color here. Let's also make this a little bit visible of the SUMIF execution. Then here we're going to have the criteria. So the SUMIF function is used when you want to find, for example, the sum of Toyota cars in this range. You have different cars here. Maybe you want to count the number of Toyota cars only. So what you can do here is you can say this cell is going to be equal to SUMIF. You have it here, so just double click it. Then here it gets three things. You have the range, criteria, and the sum range. So here the range that we want to give it here on this first position is the range of cars. The criteria is going to be whatever we put in this cell, then comma, then the sum range. Then we press enter. Right now it's going to give us 0. This is because we don't have anything here. So let's change this value to car type. So here when we put the car name here, for example, when you say Honda, it should be able to calculate the number of Honda cars. And so it's 201. Okay, that's good. Let's say Toyota. So the SUMIF here, it calculated for us the sum of all Toyota cars in this range. These, we can change this also and put something like maybe the Mazda. It's also going to calculate all the cars in this range. A Hyundai, and press enter. It's going to calculate the number of Hyundai vehicles in the range. So the SUMIF function helps us to find the sum of a certain element from this range. We have Hyundai here 101 and Hyundai 100 here. So when you add these two numbers, this is all getting 201. So we have 100 plus 101. It's going to give us 201. If you're not clear about this, leave a comment in the comment section. I will respond to you. Let's move on to the count function. The count function here, let's just copy these values here. We're going to copy these. When we copy these, let's also change the color for this so that it's easy for us to determine what function we are working with. Here, let's put the count. So the count function here, how we use the count function, let's just type count. Now here, when you bring the mouse on top of it, it's going to bring this extra explanation about what this does. The counts, it counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. So let's double click on this one. Here we want to give it the range of cells that contains numbers only. So for example, here, when we give it this range, press enter. Here it's going to count the number of cells that were counted here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cells. And so this is why we have 8 here. If we had an extra cell that had a different value, for example, it's the word. When you come here and use the same formula, count, and give it the range, but this time we're going to include this cell that has there. Press enter. It's still going to ignore this because this cell is not a number cell. If you try to use it with a range of data that does not contain numbers, for example here, let's give it this range, it's going to give you 0. This is because this range does not contain number cells. So that's what you should know about the count function. The next function we're going to talk about is the counter function, because it's a function. Let's color it green. Counter function, and we're going to use the same data as earlier. Yeah, we're going to enter this formula here, counter. So this, what it does, it counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So when you double click on this, we're going to give this a range of all these. Remember, we've added this here. So these are not empty here. But let's say, for example, we entered this counter here and we gave it this range plus an extra of empty cells. It's only going to count the 8 cells that are not empty. The empty cells are not included. So the difference between the counter and count function is that the count function, it only counts the number of cells in a range that has numbers, while the counter, it counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. There's another formula called count blank. It counts the number of blank spaces in a range. So let's type count, then here it is. We're going to bring this. What it does here is it counts the number of empty cells in a specified range of cells. So let's double click on this and give it the range, and we include the empty spaces. Here we have 3. Let's see if it's going to give us 3. Exactly, here we have 3. Here we are running out of space, so we're going to push this a little bit to the left so that we have enough space here. The next formula here is going to be count if. Stylize this and make this bold. The count if function, let's use this data here. Change this to count if, like that. The count if function is similar to the sum if function. So here what we can do is, for example, we can say equal sign count if it's here. Let's just select this and see what it does. It counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. So we're going to double click this and we're going to give it the range, just like that. Then we're also going to give it the criteria, and the criteria is going to be this cell. Let's just press enter here. This is going to be car type here. So here we have these cars. Here when we type Mazda, for example, Mazda, we should be able to get the number of times this Mazda has appeared in this range. So this formula here is saying count if in this range we have the value that we have in this cell. So Mazda is appearing in this range. How many times? Let's see the counted number that we get here. So if we put something else like Toyota, for example, we have 3. This is because Toyota is appearing 3 times in this range. Toyota, like that, Toyota 3 times. And this here is not static. It detects all the changes. So if, for example, we were to change this value to Toyota as well, and also maybe this one here to Toyota, just like that, it's going to automatically count the number of times this Toyota is appearing in this range. So that's the count if. Next on the list we have concatenate. Let's make it bold as usual and give it color green because it's a function. Let's double click between these two to resize this. So here, let's say we have a list of names. We have the first name, and in the next cell here we have the last name, like that. Let's double click between these two so that everything fits properly, and let's write some names in these cells. Let's say we have George Jackson, and then down here we're going to have Catherine Edwards, and then here we're going to have Mary Smith, and here we're going to have maybe John Jackson. John Jackson, like that. Now let's use the concatenate function. So we're going to type in equal concatenate. It's here. Let's see what it does. It joins several text strings into one text string. That's what it does. Double click on it, then you give it this comma this, for example, then you press enter. It's going to join these two together. If I want, I can extend this information by just using this fill handle and drag down, and it's going to do the same for these other ones. Let's double click here to expand this cell so that everything fits in properly like that. So what this concatenate function does, it joins the values of the cell given. So for example, here we gave it the R2 and S2, and these values were joined. Now, when you look at these names here, they are joined. For example, George Jackson here is joined. Mary Smith is joined to the last names. So what you can do here to fix this here is you can say concatenate the same function here. We double click, then we select the value that we want to be the first here. Then we put the comma and we open the quotation marks, but between these two quotation marks we want to put the space there. Then we close this with comma, then we insert another value that we want to have there, just like that. Then we can put the spaces between these, and we can use the fill handle to do the same for these other names. Double click here to expand this width for these cells. This is how you can fix the situation where you have the name, first and last name joining to each other. Just put the quotation mark between these two and put the space between there to put the space. Basically, what the concatenate allows you to do is to combine the information from one column to the other. You can use it for so many different things. It depends with what you are doing. So number 8, we have the if function. Make it green and bold, because it's a function. So here what we're going to do here is we're going to enter some values. This is the data we're going to work with here. We're going to work with fruits. Let's just change the color for these. Let's say maybe an orange, like that. We're going to work with fruits data here. So here we're going to put a function, start with an equal sign, then we'll say if, just like that. It comes here, it checks whether a condition is met, and it returns the value if true and another value if false. So what we're going to do here is we're going to double click here, and we're going to check if this value here is equal to the string, and here we want to check if it's equal to lemon. If this is true, we want to return true. If it's not, we want to return false, for example, yeah, like that. Then we press enter. Here banana is not a lemon. This is why we're getting false. When we extend this range like so, we're going to get true down here, because the lemon, because W6 is equal to lemon, so it's true. Otherwise all these are just false. So for example, if I change this here to lemon, it should also change this value to true. If I say also this one should change to lemon, it's also going to change the value just like that. To advance this a little bit, what we can say is equal sign if, and we double click on this one, then we're going to say if this is equal to mango, for example. This time we're going to say mango, close quotation mark, comma. We're going to say this first value here, it should be quotation mark. We can put custom values there. We can put custom values here and say this is a mango. Second value here is going to be the false value, so we're going to put it's mango, like that. So banana is not a mango. Mango here, we're going to use the fill handle to drag this down, Mango is mango. This is a mango. Orange, it's not a mango. Lemon, it's not a mango. The first value here that should be executed is a true value. The next value here is the false value. So what do you want to execute if this condition here is true? That's what you put here. If this condition is not true, that's what you put under the false value. So just like I said here, Excel makes it easier for you to know what the functions do. So for example, when you bring this here, it's going to tell you what this function does. So the if function checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So in this case, we were checking if this condition is true, if W3 is equal to mango. So if this is not true, we execute this. If it's true, we execute this. There are advanced things you can also do with the if function. So for example, here, let's put some numbers and say in this cell we're going to have 8, here we're going to have 90, here we're going to have 20, here we're going to have 2, and here we're going to have 5, for example. So what we can do here is we can say equal sign the if function, double click on this, then we're going to say if this is greater than, for example, let's say 15. If this value here is greater than 15, then what do we want to do? We can do mathematics here. We can also do calculations. What we can say is we can say we want to multiply this value by, we multiply this by 10. Otherwise, we're just going to return a 0, for example, something like this. Then we press enter here. So here we're returning 0 because this number is less than 15. But when we drag this down, you're going to see that we're getting a 90. Where is this coming from? This is multiplying by 10. This is why we're getting a 90 here. When we do this for this, you're also going to get this 200 here because this is multiplying by 10. And just like that, you'll get 0 zeros because these are less than 15. You can do more advanced things with the if function. You can also say if, double click on this one and give it this is less than 15, for example, or 20. You can put any number there. Then we want to execute this minus 10. Otherwise, it's going to be this value divided by 10. You can do advanced things with this function, just like that. You can also do something like this. For example, here you have the yes word there. What you can do with this, maybe we want to check if we, for example, if this cell here is equal to yes, I'm going to type yes there, close this. Then what do we want to execute on the first value? We want to find the sum. I'm going to double click on this and give it the range of these values here. For example, let's close this with a parenthesis. Otherwise, we want to find the average. So let's say this can change to yes or no. Let's say someone puts a yes here or a no. If someone puts a yes, it's going to find the sum of these numbers here. If someone puts a no here, it should find the average. So we're going to put average like that here and give it the range as well, like that. When we press enter, so put the average here and we close this with a parenthesis like so, and do another parenthesis, then we say enter. So when we type in a yes, we're going to get this sum here of these 125. 20 plus 90 plus 8 is going to give us a 125, right? Plus, we have 2 plus 5 down here. So when you add all these numbers together, we're going to get this. We can add this if we want to just confirm this. We would say sum here and give it this range. Press enter, we'll get the same value. But when we change this to a no, for example, any other thing you put here, it's going to give us the average number for these numbers in this range. Hopefully these explanations here are clear. If you're not clear about anything, please leave a comment in the comment section. Well, next on the list, we're going to have the VLOOKUP function. So in here, let's type VLOOKUP, and let's style this because it's a function, and let's color it as well. Okay, give it color green like that, make it bold like that. What can we do with this VLOOKUP function? First, let me fill in some information here. We're going to have the name. We're also going to have the email, and we're also going to have maybe the number and something like the salary here. For the names, we're going to copy data from the previous work. So we have the names somewhere here. Let's just copy these names here. Copy these. And I want to paste this here. Paste this there. Let's enter. What else do we need here? We want the email addresses. So we're going to type in the email addresses. Copy. I'll paste this here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change certain things, like maybe gmail.com. Copy this. I'll bring it here. Okay, I'll also bring the same value there. I'll also bring the same value here. To just double click between these two to expand the width of these cells, and I'll just enter random numbers here to assume that these are their numbers, and just like that. And for the salary, we're going to put different values as well. Okay, something like this. Okay, this is not bad, just any number like that, because the salary is currency. We're going to convert these to currency. So I'm going to come here and use this currency command here, so that it's a currency and you're able to see this clearly, like so. So we have the VLOOKUP data here. Now at the bottom here, we want to put the same details. We're going to say name, and just like that. We're going to put email, just like that. What else do we need here for the number? We're designing this structure so that it's easy for us to understand what VLOOKUP does. Phone number, like that. Here we're going to have salary like that. We're also going to maybe italicize this a little bit so that they look a bit different. But in here, let's just expand this as well so that we're able to see everything clearly, like so. So here, let's say we want to have George in here. So what we want is when we type George in here, we get everything about George down here. So the name is going to be used to find the email, phone number, and the salary for the person we type in here. So when we type in George here, we should be able to see their email, the phone number, and the salary. That's what you can use VLOOKUP for. So how we can achieve this is by coming down here and saying want to VLOOKUP the email for George. So we're going to say =, VLOOKUP. We have this, just double click on this. Then the first value here should be what we are looking for. In this case, we're going to look for George and the email. So George is going to be in this cell here. Then we're going to put a comma. Now the table array, the table is going to be this table here of data. Then we put a comma. Where is the email in this table? It's in column 1, 2. We don't start from counting it, we start from the table here. So this is column 1 and this is column 2. So we're going to put 2 there. Then here we want to put a true or a false. So what we're going to do here is we want the exact match. If you want the exact match, you put the false. If you want the approximate match, you just put the true. Here we want the false. So let me just put the false there and press enter, and I'm going to get the email for John. So let's also do the same for the phone number. So what we can do here, we'll just come here and type the VLOOKUP function like so. Then what do we want to look up? The name. For this name here, we want to find the number in this table, so give it the table. What do we want to find here? We want to find the number which is 1 2 3, so we're going to put 3 there. Then do you want the exact number or the approximate? We want the exact, so we double click on this and we press enter, so we get the number for George. This is the same for salary, so we just come here and say equal sign VLOOKUP, and we double click on this to get this exact spelled function. Then we give it the lookup value, which is this one here. Then we put a comma there, and what are we looking for this time? The salary from this table. Okay, the table, then a comma. Where is the salary in the table? Is in the column 4. So 4, like that. And what else do we want here is to put a comma. And do we want the exact or the approximate? We want the exact. Press enter, so we have the exact salary for George. So see what happens here when I try to change the value for this name here. Say, let's say this is going to be equal to Catherine, for example. We'll have Catherine and all the details for Catherine. If let's say we want to change this to John, for example, we'll have all the details, the email, the phone number, and the salary for John. Here I'm using the direct way, but if I were to type, for example, Mary here, just type Mary the same way you typed it there, Mary, then we press enter. We're going to get the details for Mary, the email address, the phone number, and the salary. This is how you can VLOOKUP for data in Excel. If you have any questions about the VLOOKUP function, please leave them in the comments. I will respond to you. Next on the list, we're going to talk about the use of drop-down lists. Now, the reason why the drop-down list is useful, maybe in here, for example, I got this information from the previous work on the VLOOKUP. Here we're going to use the same data here. So what we said here is, let's say here you change the name here and you get the details for this name. But sometimes you don't want to type this because you can miss or misspell certain words. To avoid things like those, we need a drop-down list, so that here we can just choose the name from the drop-down list, and that way it's going to be easier. So let's just expand these here so that we're able to see everything clearly here, and just like that. Also, what I forgot to do here is convert this to a currency symbol so that we're able to see that this is a currency. So want to know how to use the drop-down function, how to work with drop-down lists here to allow us to accomplish easy access of data in Excel. So here what we can do to easily put a drop-down list on this cell here is we'll come here under the data, and then we'll come here where we have data validation. You just click on this, then you're going to get this data validation dialog box. Under this here, we want to be here under the data validation criteria. We can click on this and choose a list. Then here we can put the names of the list that we want to have. But what we're going to do here, we're going to choose the range. So we're going to just say this range here. And when you do that, we get this data there. Then we're going to click on OK. Then here we'll have this drop down list to choose from. So for example, when we say Catherine, here we'll get the value for Catherine. When we choose George, we'll get the values for George. When we say John, we'll get the values for John. And we have created a list in Excel. Just like that, we've managed to create this drop-down list, and this is going to be very helpful. As you can imagine, this is very helpful. It's easier for you to just choose the name here and not mess things up. That's the 10th item on this 10 list of functions that you should be aware of in Excel. If this video is helpful, please leave a like on this video, share this video with people who might want to watch this. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Ask questions where you're not clear. Thank you for watching.